Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering the Browns pulling off tonight's shocking victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football. We'll discuss the Miami Dolphins. They've went on a little bit of a run, find themselves 4-6, and are now back into the race for that 7th seed. We'll discuss the NFL power rankings. I'll give y'all my top 5 NFL power rankings. We'll discuss Ruben Amorim and whether or not he can turn this Manchester United's team around this season. And please stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on the 49ers, whether or not their season is over if they lose this Sunday's game to Green Bay. Massive game there. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes this show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's just a quick comment or a thoughtful question you just have to share, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. And if you want to make absolutely sure your super chat stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Just use the super chat button at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your super chat gets read on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We we really rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can always go to the gsmcpodcast.net link to tip, donate, or even leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as a part of our community. We do have to start off, though, with the Browns pulling off the Thursday Night Football victory over the Steelers at home in Cleveland, and it was a snowy game. It was a snowy football game, especially down the stretch. The snow was really coming down there. But I have to say, though, despite the snow, you didn't see much. You still saw a good quality football being played. I thought both quarterbacks did pretty well in this game. Russell Wilson was 21 of 28 for 270, touchdown, clean game, no interceptions. Jameis Winston did throw a pick, but overall, he was 18 of 27 for 219 yards. I thought he was overall played a very clean game. He ended up leading that game-winning drive late on with the snow really coming down. The snow was coming down hard when he let down that game-winning drive, and I was impressed with that. I was I didn't know entering this game that it was going to be a snowing game. I didn't really know. I didn't check the forecast, and it was I didn't think. And even earlier on in the game, if you compare how much white there is in the early part of the game to what it ended off, it was two different stories. It was really snowing later in that game. I thought I thought it was an interesting aspect. Number one, it's November 20. That's the first big takeaway I have. November 22nd, and it's already snowing this hard. I mean, that's wow. I didn't think it gets like that. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and it's not like we never get snow. We get snow, once in a while. We get snow once in a while here and there, but the fact that it was full on snowing in November, I was surprised by that. I didn't think that was possible. And it wasn't just a flurry or this. Down the stretch, this was snow. This was proper snow. The field was covered in white. You could tell with the way how the players were running, how their cleats were, getting traction off the snow, that the snow was definitely a presence there later in the game. But overall, I thought both teams played some good football. There is always that, saying, with division games, the records go out the window, and this was a perfect definition of it. This is a Cleveland Browns team that essentially are playing for nothing, with how their season have gone, mostly under Deshaun Watson, but they entered this game 2-8, while the Steelers entered this game 8-2, and the Steelers entered this game 8-2, and they were on a high of an high, beating Baltimore, getting that division lead. I do think that this game can have ramifications going forward because it brings Baltimore now a game closer to them, and also this is a division loss. This is a division loss, and whenever you're going up against Baltimore, it'll make that a week. I believe they play. I don't know exactly what week, but it'll make that a Steelers-Ravens second time around that much bigger when that game happens in M&T Bank Stadium because of the fact that Steelers got a division loss here. So I think that this firmly brings Baltimore back within punching distance of that division crown in this one. And Pittsburgh overall, they really struggled in that first half to generate much offense and to move the ball and get things going. It was a lackluster start. They had a little bit of a what's the word? A push into the right direction in that fourth quarter. They got that they got the big touchdown. Then they got a turnover that led immediately to a touchdown, and out of nowhere they were down 18-6, and in the fourth quarter, and out of nowhere they were up in the ball game 19-18, and then the Browns ended up getting the ball back, and as I said, Jameis Winston, he led that game-winning drive late on in that fourth quarter with the snow. I thought it was really impressive, the drive that Jameis Winston led, because of number one, the fact that it was in the heavy snow. It was really coming down in that period, and also it was so important to respond to that run that Pittsburgh was going on, because you say if Cleveland Brown get that ball and they go 3 and out again, and they give the ball to Pittsburgh with time left, the momentum completely has shifted Pittsburgh way. Pittsburgh is getting that victory. They are getting those 3 points, and it's game over. But the fact that Jameis Winston was able to get the ball, and not only they were able to get a few first downs here and there, they were able to get it down into the end zone, get a touchdown. There was that situation, that 3rd and 7 situation where it was 4th and 2. Mike Tomlin and the crew decided to accept it and give them an extra down. 3rd and 7 ended up being a completion to Jerry Jeudy. I believe Jeudy also caught a clutch ball on 4th down earlier in that drive to keep the drive alive. And then Nick Chubb is able to cap it home with about 25-30 seconds left, and it's over. Pittsburgh are not going to be able to drive the length of the field. And I thought Pittsburgh, they played some good defense. I thought overall, it wasn't a horrible game from them from the circumstances, right? Especially in the second half, they were able to get a little bit more offense going. You saw a lot more Justin Fields. He only carried the ball for 3 times for 26 yards, but he was involved a lot of packages. In fact, he threw a pass. He was involved in certain packages with Russell Wilson. He got 3 carries for 26 yards, and allowed Pittsburgh to have a little bit of a diversity, being able to attack this Cleveland Browns defense with the snow, and again, it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. The big turning point, I thought the momentum has done, and it was completely shifted, especially in these sort of situations where Steelers are the better team, just based on this season being 8-2. I thought once they got that lead, I just thought there was no looking back, and they were able to carry this momentum into the next into getting a defensive stop. And I thought Myles Garrett was a game wrecker. What a menace he is. It's a shame that we're not going to see him play at we're not going to see him play at the highest level of football this season because of how poor the Browns have been. But this is a guy that deserves to be in the top conversations amongst top defensive players. He really is a special player, and it's impossible to block him. And especially with these offensive linemen playing in the snow, the slippy conditions. Again, there's an advantage to both the offensive lineman and the defensive end in that situation when you think about it. But I just thought he was just so hard to deal with, and Pittsburgh never really got a real accounting of him. Even if he didn't, get the sack himself, the pressures that he generated, his presence as well to in the run game. I just thought overall he played an incredible football game, and he was one of the big reasons why they were able to keep themselves in it. I talked about Jerry Jeudy. He made some clutch catches. He averaged 14.2 yards per reception, 6 receptions, 85 yards. Great. He was great. For Cleveland in terms of relative circumstance. I thought the Cleveland Browns defense, especially in those first 3 quarters, looked like some of that Browns defense we saw of last year. A defense that was just hard to move the ball against. That is hard to move the ball against. I thought Denzel Ward played a very, very good game going up against George Pickens, it's a great bounce back because the Browns got smacked by the Saints last week. A Saints team that has been struggling. They're now 4-7, I believe, because that was their second straight win. That Browns game was. But going back overall, I was just in love with this game. I thought if you gave me a blindfold in terms of I couldn't know which teams were which, and I was just watching the football game. The atmosphere, the sense of want and desire from both teams, and the fact that it was the fact that it felt like a division rivalry. You could have, I could have thought it was a playoff game just looking at it from a neutral. It had that sort of feel to it, and that's the highest compliment I could give. And I thought it was a great showing because look, Thursday Night Football, in my opinion, is a poop fest. But for the NFL, this was a really, really great showing for them. Having this game, it's not really on national TV because, well, we know it's on their own, what subscription I'm talking about. I'm not giving them free advertisement here. But, I thought it was overall a great game. And I looked at the game tonight. I didn't realize it was playing Thursday Night Football until I woke up this morning to check while I was, doing prep to try to get a mix of what topics I'm going to do today. When I saw that it was Browns Steelers, I was just like, man, I'm just going to be doing my work on the side and I'll check the score once in a while. I'll glance over to the TV. I was hooked from minute 1. It was an absolutely sensational game. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss the Miami Dolphins.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed We discussed the Browns pulling off the shocking victory over the Steelers. We move on to discuss the Miami Dolphins reaching the playoffs. Saw my beloved Lakers lose to Franz Wagner game winner. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Not my beloved Lakers, actually. My beloved LeBron. I could care less about the Lakers. But let's go back to the Miami Dolphins reaching the playoffs. The Miami Dolphins are now sitting at with back-to-back wins over the Los Angeles Rams and the Oakland Raiders. The Miami Dolphins are sitting at 4-6. No, correct. Yeah, at 4-6. Since Tua Tagovailoa has been back, this team looks completely different. They are 2-2, but their two losses came against Arizona and Buffalo, that are both sitting number one in their divisions, and they came against those teams. In those losses, I can't speak today. It was both because of game-winning field goals in both of those games. In the Cardinals' case, a walk-off with the Bills, a field goal to go ahead with, a basically lateral time to go. And then since those two losses that they got once to us back, they went on to beat the Rams through a very good defensive performance and good complementary football from the offense. Taking advantage of the good defense, winning that one. And then against the Raiders, they just beat the Raiders because they're just a better team than the Raiders. And Tua played great in it, efficient as always, 28 of 36, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns. Devon Achane was able to get a touchdown as well. Jonnu Smith, a big game for him, 6 receptions for 101 yards and a couple touchdowns. I think this Miami Dolphins team is a little bit more balanced. They are, they're not as heavily reliant on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as you expect them to. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill in this game, they didn't even they combined for 71, 81, 90. For 90, they didn't even combine for 100 yards, and they still won the game. It shows that, this offense is being more expanded. Devon Achane, he's getting 4 receptions. You're getting Julian Hill 2 receptions. Odell got 2 receptions. Malik Washington got 3 receptions. Do we know what Jonnu Smith did? He averaged 16.8 yards per game. And just the fact that Tyreek Hill, he's not, it was a question on whether he's playing. Even if him just on the field as a decoy, just running as fast as he can, moving the safety, occupying a safety over the top, it opens up opportunities for Jonnu Smith to find seams, in the vertical lanes to, be able to get his production. And look, Miami overall, 4-6, they are not far off of, the 7-seed contenders. Now, I think Chargers have separated themselves, and I think they will be that 5th seed. I think they, with them being 7-3, I think they have separated themselves there, alongside, the other probable playoff candidate, wild card candidate to be 4th seed is, whoever doesn't win the division out of the Steelers or Ravens. But that 7th seed spot is open. And right now is accustomed by the Denver Broncos, who are 6-5 after their dominating win over Atlanta, which by the way is a very interesting team to cover. The Atlanta Falcons. I couldn't imagine trying to cover that team. Wow. Or even worse, try to be a supporter of that team. But going back to what I was saying though, this Miami Dolphins team, they're competing with a Broncos team that's 6-5, which is which is only 1.5 game difference, just with the Broncos not having their bye week yet. I believe their bye week is their bye week is actually, I believe their bye week is week in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, they're gonna play this weekend, and then they're gonna play on Monday against the Browns. Then it's their bye week. No, is it? Yeah, then it's their bye week. But going back to what I was saying, though, Denver Broncos, they're gonna be. Miami, they're gonna be in direct competition with the Denver Broncos for that 7th spot. The Denver Broncos, and probably Indianapolis Colts and Cincinnati Bengals. It's a 4-team race. Now, the Bengals are obviously the team clearly behind with 7 losses already. But they're definitely not out of it. When you factor in the fact that the team right now currently sitting in 7th has 5, there is life there. Now, the Denver Broncos, if you look at their schedule, not the most difficult. You have the Browns. You have no, actually, this is fairly difficult, actually. You have the Browns, and then, you have the Raiders, Browns, and then, Colts. That can be an interesting one. That's a team that's in direct competition with Denver for a playoff spot, so tiebreakers can be huge there. Broncos also take on the Chargers, a division rival. Broncos then take on Cincinnati. Now, that could be another team that, will be battling for that last wild card spot come January, or that game is actually late December, and maybe that game can have a big impact. And then Chiefs close off the season against Denver January 5th, and you never know. Kansas City Chiefs might have whatever their goals are by that period, whether it is to be that, sorry about that, whether it is that fact that they are the first seed. Maybe they don't even have players, have starters playing in that game. So who knows? That's not an easy schedule, but that's not that's not the worst schedule in the world. Miami got some tough ones. Miami do have to play the Packers. Actually, no, this is relatively not that hard either. Apart from Packers and the 49ers, who could be an easy, could be a comfortable win nowadays. But other than that, you're not really frightened. You get the Jets twice, Miami does. You get to play the New England Patriots, the Houston Texans, the Cleveland Browns. Miami, this is not the worst schedule in the world for Miami to sneak in there. I think they definitely do it. They could definitely do it. Now, they'll have to win games that Denver doesn't. They'll have to, there's only 6 games, or there's only 7 games left. They need to gap them by two games. The Dolphins does against the Bengals. But not Bengals. Broncos. Dolphins need to do that with the Broncos, because the Broncos are a game and a half ahead of them. But I think Miami are on a forward momentum from what they did earlier, from what we saw of them earlier this season without Tua. They're playing some really, really good football, and they have belief of their coach. They play with players with belief. They have a good continuity, good brotherhood. We saw earlier this season with the Tyreek Hill situation and the teammates standing for him. I love whatever is going on with Miami outside the field, and I think that ends up affecting the product on the field. And I thought that Rams game was a big coming of age victory for them, a big victory, like, to really show their bottle, because again, before that game, I don't remember the last time they beat an opponent that had, that was I'd call the Rams a quality opponent since you're going back to that 2022 year where they beat Baltimore earlier in the season. So yeah, I've been overall very impressed with how Miami has returned with Tua, and can they make the playoffs? I don't know. It's difficult. There's a gap they have to. But actually, will they? I don't know. But can they? Absolutely. I think they're firmly in it. I really do. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will do our top 5 NFL power rankings.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed the Miami Dolphins and whether or not they can reach the playoffs. We move on to do our top 5 NFL power rankings so far of this season. I say, there's nothing young about the season. I was going to say young season, but we're firmly into that second half of the season. There's only 7 games left to play. 17 game 17 game schedule, and most teams only have 7 games if they've already had their bye. So no more excuses for teams. So we're reaching the witching hour of the season. We're gonna go a team that's a little bit in a desperate situation in this Sunday. We're gonna talk about that later on in the show. But we have to talk about the top 5 power rankings, and here's my criteria on top 5 power rankings. If one team is above the other, then you'd choose them in the playoffs over the other team, no matter what. When I do power rankings, I mean teams with the chances to go, best chance to win the Super Bowl right now. And obviously, based on current form, has to matter, obviously. Like, generally, when you're doing a top 10, the Niners, or top 5, the Niners are always in it. But despite the fact that you probably still, I'd probably still believe the 49ers have a top 5 chance in terms of every NFL team to win the Super Bowl this season, I wouldn't put that team in my power rankings, trying to, I wouldn't put that team in my power rankings into the top 5 because, bro, they haven't looked good enough. They've been 5-5. It's been unacceptable. And we'll get to the 49ers, but I don't know if I want to start off with number 1 or number 5. And it's tricky now because it's kind of unfair to do this. I think I would have probably had Pittsburgh in my top 5 if it wasn't for today's loss. So this is actually difficult. I think my top 4 is pretty straight symbol, I guess. I'll put the Chargers actually into the top 5. I thought last week was a great win for them because, look, they started off 6-3. But there was still some major questions with them because if you look at the quarterbacks they beat on that run, the 6 games so far this season, they haven't been awfully impressive. They beat Gardner Minshew, they beat Bryce Young, Gardner Minshew, Bryce Young, a rookie Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler, who was also a rookie, but Spencer Rattler, Jameis Winston, Spencer Rattler, Jameis Winston, the performance levels or the competition has not been there. The other one was Will Levis with the Titans. Their 6 wins before this haven't came and gone great opposition, especially against the great quarterbacks. Now they took on the likes of Joe Burrow, in which they couldn't suppress, especially in that second half. He was able to get things going. He was 28 of 50 for 356 yards. But I thought the Chargers, what they were able to do in that first half, just absolutely dismantled the Cincinnati defense, scored 24 points. This is a Chargers team that lacks any sort of explosiveness and any sort of real, number one wide receiver where, they can call a play on fourth down, a 4th and 6, 4th and 7, and someone they'll go. This Chargers team doesn't have that, If you look at a game-by-game perspective, this Chargers team are struggling, to get 100 yards receivers. Now, Latim McConkey, he's been a good rookie wide receiver for them. He gives them something a little bit different, yes. But he's not the guy to... Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties there. But he's not the guy that, can be that number one. And he is a rookie. But despite that, they were able to dominate that Bengals team in that first half. It had me really thinking, wow, are the Bengals really this horrible on defense? I think it's a combination of both. I think the Bengals, they've been god-awful on defense this season. But I think the Chargers are starting to figure it out offensively. They're starting to get a little bit more offensive plays. They're still heavily relying on the run game, which there's no problem with that. It is John Harbaugh's way of football. I know this. I was a 49er fan then. I'm still a 49er fan now. Actually, I made it seem like I'm not a 49er fan now anymore. But I was also a 49er fan then, and I know the way he wanted to go about it. There was a clear formula on how they were gonna get their wins, and there was clear priorities and how playing good defense and having a good run game and being able to play off that play action and hype up the quarterbacks and make the quarterbacks believe, they're the most important human being in the world. In that moment where he does the little slaps on the shoulder, I've seen it all. Jim Harbaugh, and he's just an absolutely brilliant head coach. And I wish for him success over his brother, because his brother got him the best of him a few times. The one thing does Jim have that John doesn't have is a national championship in college. But John Harbaugh has a Super Bowl. I'm sure he'll take that any day. So. But yeah, I'll put the Chargers number 5. Number 4, I'll put the Buffalo Bills. Look, the Bills won, and they beat the Chiefs, yes. But they've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season before. And for me to get really hyped about this Buffalo Bills team, they need to beat the Chiefs in the postseason. But the fact I have them here lower than what you expected with Buffalo is, I go back to Buffalo Bills' loss, I think you can learn about a team I think you can learn more about a team in a loss than you could do in a win. And I think the Buffalo Bills are a great example of that. They're getting their victories here and there against opposition that's just far less talent. But when the talent margin gets close and they need a real proper plan, they're struggling to get anything going. As far as Buffalo, when you see what they how they performed against the Texans, how Josh Allen performed against the Texans, 9 of 30 for 131 yards and a touchdown. You also saw how Buffalo just got completely manhandled by Baltimore when they went away. They are 9-2, but I've taken the quality of opponents in that 9-2, and it's almost a little bit of a fake 9-2 to me, and that's why I have them at number 4. I'll probably move. I'll put the Eagles number 3. Look, the Eagles are looking like that team that we saw earlier this past season, or even the season before, where they reached the Super Bowl. We knew the pressure that Nick Sirianni was on, and the criticism surrounding him and how last year ended, and then also on top of that the 2-2 start, and how there's been certain games that he's had a really bad management and decision making. But look, at the end of the day, I thought I think what Philadelphia has done is they've been really, really good this season. They've been able to get on a run, be that 8-2 team, and yeah, I look forward to seeing this NFC race. I think it's really going to come down to the wire. Even when you get into the playoffs, you're going to have the Commanders, the Lions, the Eagles, the we don't know about the Niners, but, there's going to be a lot of good teams, and we're going to have a lot of interesting matchups because I think the quality overall has gotten up in the league, especially of the upper echelon teams. I have them 4. So I had them 4. So I had Buffalo 5, Pittsburgh 4. No, I didn't have Buffalo 5. I had Chargers 5. Chargers 5. I had Buffalo. Where did I add? I'm confused. I think I had Baltimore 4, Chargers 5, and then, okay. Chargers 5, Buffalo 4, Philadelphia 3. Number 2, I'm still, despite Kansas City's loss, I'm still going to put Detroit there. Look, Chiefs are still 9-1. And, let's speak about Buffalo. Detroit. Detroit's been great. Absolutely great. They're playing some really, really good football. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's continuing to look like an all-pro. Jared Goff, he's looking like a Pro Bowl quarterback. But look, I just can't put anybody ahead of Kansas City until they've been able to slay the dragon. They just know how to get these victories when they need it. And I think in the playoffs, that's going to be a big, big factor. So for me to put anybody ahead of them in the power rankings, I think is just quite frankly irresponsible. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Ruben Amorim and Manchester United.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed our top 5 NFL power rankings. We move on to discuss Ruben Amorim. He's coming at Manchester United, and he now needs to turn around Manchester United this season, or at least give Manchester United fans hope. He's come in, he's done a few training sessions here and there. We saw Marcus Rashford, Casemiro coming out with comments regarding the training, saying things like top training and things like that. For me, just seems a little cringe and a little... What is the appropriate way to say this on a podcast? I was going to say... Actually, I can't even say that. I can't even say the thing that I was trying to give a hint on what I was trying to say. That's how bad it is. But... it's a little bit kiss ass. I think I can say that. But that's a better way to put it. I think people will be able to interpret what I was thinking in my head just based on the context. But yeah, I didn't mess with it. I thought it was cringe and I thought it was a little bit of a shot at Erik ten Hag. Like what was it not top training under Erik ten Hag, Casemiro? And Ruben Amorim, number one, he has a way of playing with that back three, with heavily reliance on widths from fullbacks, and needing his traditional wingers to tuck in a little bit more to be more support in the midfield. He has his ways, Now, does he come in right away and does he implement how he wants to play, the starting 11, the formation, all that? Does he go with it from the beginning, or does he slowly adapt his way in? That's the age-old dilemma for managers coming in, especially managers coming in mid-season. This is a dude coming in mid-November, and he's taking over a United team that's sitting 13th place. Now, I think what's the good thing is that United have came to the decision, or United have been able to hire him soon enough where he could still make an impact on United's race to get Champions League football next season. I still think they're, in realm. It is tight in the Premier League. They're sitting 13th place with 15 points, but the team who is on the verge of the Premier League has only four more points than them. Even despite how horrible United has been this season. So I think Ruben Amorim, he has a chance to turn things around. And number one, he needs to get the best out of players that have, that have been inconsistent or just flat out didn't show up for Erik Ten Hag. I'm talking about Marcus Rashford. I'm talking about Anthony, one of the players that, Ten Hag, he put everything. He wanted him and he got him for a ridiculous fee. It's up for the dedication and the willingness for Anthony to not fail and the motivation to not fail. Should have been able to fire him into doing much more things that he did at Liverpool. That he did at Manchester United under Erik Ten Hag. But now I believe that it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for a lot of these players to really make themselves well known to Ruben Amorim. These training sessions, this game is an opportunity for him to see certain players at certain positions that he like. I think about it a lot where Thomas Tuchel came into Chelsea. It was seeing things through in the first couple of games, just trying to get a feel of the club, the atmosphere, how the players wanted to play, how the players mentally go about approaching the game and building that off the players. I think we see something similar. I don't think Ruben Amorim comes in right away and he just completely shifts everything. I don't think it's something like that. I definitely think it is a little bit of it is gonna be a difference. I'm really interested to see how Manchester United, come out right away and with Ruben Amorim. And by the way, this Sunday they're going up against Ipswich. They're fighting to stay up. Portman Road. It can be a tough, difficult place to be at. This is a Ipswich Town team that's only had one win this season. Yes, but playing this game at home and the desperation to stay out of the bottom three, I think it can pull them off. Ipswich Town, they've been able to pull off stuff here and there. I thought they played City pretty well till the self-implosion that happened. But yeah, overall though, I think United do have an opportunity. Top four, I don't know, maybe that's a stretch to play Champions League football in general. Who knows? Because fifth place could get in there, but it's gonna be difficult. There are teams like Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea, Tottenham. They're all gonna be vying for that exact same position, and only one team is gonna be able to get it. And what I've seen from Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson has left. It doesn't give me any evidence, and you're probably asking me, why am I looking so big picture? Well, United's problem has been the same then than it is now. It's been absolutely the same in both situations. So for me, the big thing there is, the big thing with Manchester United is just a culture change. It's a belief change. I think a culture change and some BS and it's the real big thing with Manchester United. Honestly, it all starts from the top, and that's the amazing part, is that it all starts from the top. How a flawed ownership group or flawed group that's running football operations can affect all the way to the quality of the pitch. And even you see it from the quality of the stadium. The stadium rotten, not properly taking care of it. The passion from the fans against these owners group, it affects how the fans even look at the team. It's a trickling effect, and we're seeing it now as well in terms of, look, they brought in Sir Jim Ratcliffe in this new football operations. Can you say the sacking of Ten Hag was not a mess? It was an absolute mess. You know, they're going out in the FA Cup and they're interviewing, or there's reports saying, according to sources, that they're talking to other managers. How's that even possible? How does that even get out? Why does it take you so long to do an investigation to come to the realization that Erik Ten Hag is either good or not good enough to be at Manchester United? Eventually, they came up with that they wanted to keep him and they wanted to go forward, and they even signed him an extension. Just for a few months later into the second season, they sacked him, and they sacked him justifiably. So United, as I said, right now United, if you look at it, they're sitting 13th in the Premier League, and I believe they were 14th when they sacked him. And then in the Europa League, they haven't won a game. They didn't win a game either. I mean, there was no decision to make there, but really, you make that decision in the summer like they should have. You would have had the opportunity to bring in the manager in the summer to have a full preseason and all that. And yes, Manchester United, man. Short break here coming up. When we come back, though, we will discuss the 49ers. Before the break, we discussed Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. We move on to discuss the 49ers. They play Green Bay on Sunday, and it's as close as do and die. As close as do or die as it gets. The 49ers are now 5-5, and they've struggled this season for their standards, for what they've done. This is a 49ers team since 2019. They've been in every single NFC championship game at least, besides that 1 year that they missed the playoffs because of all the injuries and, the culminations of injuries. And that was the year after they, lost the Super Bowl. And it seems like we might be getting a repeat of something similar to that. Obviously, this is not as bad so far as that. That season, it was just terrible. I mean, they completely fell apart. I don't think it's that this season. We still have a lot of our players, and the injury crisis is nowhere near as bad. And we're playing much better in the games than we played that year. Obviously, we're having. In the 3 losses, the 49ers have had 90% win probability in their 3 division losses to the Cardinals, Seattle, and the Rams. And they've lost all those games. And again, that's That's the difference between being an 8-2 ball club and being a 5-5 ball club, with the playoffs now suddenly being on, an outside looking in situation for the 49ers. So yeah, it's been unbelievable. It's been unbelievable. I cannot believe it's a 5-5 team, but overall, the offense, it just doesn't look as creative as Kyle Shanahan's offenses in the past. You don't see, I'm looking at the statistics. The 49ers are one of the worst, or one of the bottom teams in terms of throws behind the line of scrimmages. How many times did Shanahan make it easy for Jimmy Garoppolo, give him these easy jet passes or screen passes to make life simpler? With Brock Purdy, I guess he has such an increased trust in him and his abilities. Half the time he's lining up shotgun, and he's giving the entire offense to Brock Purdy, and he needs to make the play. And it's just like, even with the quarterback as great as Brock Purdy, sometimes he needs things to be easier for him too. Patrick Mahomes is throws the most passes behind the line of scrimmage in the NFL. It's, sometimes a quarterback can benefit off that, and we don't see that. On top of that, defensively, late game situations, they've not been able to get the stops that are needed, and overall, it's been poor. It's been poor. But what the 49ers do have is they have hope, because the team currently leading that division is only a game ahead of the 49ers. And but the problem is also the 49ers have a very difficult schedule to end off their year, while the Arizona Cardinals has an easy schedule as well. And they're still the Rams and Seahawks that also have the same record as the Niners, but they have a better tiebreaker. They have the tiebreaker over the Niners because of division record. So the Niners are in a hole. And the Niners are in a hole so bad that, they have a do or die game essentially week 12 of the season. I couldn't believe that the 49ers will be in a do or die game this season. I can't believe it. We're in it's week 12, and the 49ers, according to Pro Football Focus PFF, they lose the game. Their probability to miss the playoffs, their probability to make the playoffs is 15%. 15% if they win the game. Not win the game. If they lose the game. Now, if they win the game, it jumps all the way to 53%. So that's a massive, massive change there. Making the playoffs, going from 53% to 15%. That is a massive difference. So to say this game is do or die, look, I've been saying it's do or die all the time. It's not do or die, but it's like, it's almost, your second to last lifeline almost. And you never want to get to your last lifeline because anything can happen. And with the Buffalo Bills game coming up next, the 49ers, they go away to Green Bay, they go away to Buffalo. Ideally, you want to win both of the games, but as a necessity, you have to win one. You have to be 6-6 out of, you're 6-6 through 12 games. You got the rest of the season in your hands almost. Like, you have a chance there. You go 5-7. For you to make a backdoor cut into the playoffs, you need help, even to sneak into that 7th spot. And yeah, the Niners, they don't want to find themselves in that position where they're relying on help from other teams just to get in. And I also think this is a big opportunity for Green Bay, or even if you're Detroit later on. I think Detroit plays the Niners in week 17. I think both of those teams should give everything they got to beat these 49ers. Because you want to get these 49ers out when you have the chance. You don't want them sneaking back into into the back doors, into the playoffs, and be that team just hovering over them. Especially if you're Detroit, you want the 49ers out of there. You do not want the 49ers in the playoffs. You don't want the 49ers to even be an option, because the 49ers, even when they sneak into the playoffs like they did in 2021, they still have that knockout punch ability where they can pull off a road upset here and there just because of the nature of the team and the coach to an extent. And if you're the Packers, you're trying to knock them dead when you can't, when you still can. I think the Rams, they made a mistake that year in 2021. They couldn't knock down the 49ers in week 18. The 49ers came back into that game. I think the 49ers were down like 17-0 in that game. They needed to win that game to make the playoffs. They ended up coming back and winning that game. And then the 49ers went on a run. They beat the Cowboys in the wild card round. And then they beat the Packers in that crazy game where they blocked the punt to tie it off. Now the 49ers have an amazing and then the 49ers took out the Rams, and the Rams, they were able to get their get back. And I still believe that the Rams made a mistake, because I think it did make it more difficult for the Rams to reach the Super Bowl facing off that 49ers team in that NFC Championship. But they still got the job done, and they redeemed themselves for that mistake. So, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. They got it, good for them. But what I'm trying to say is, Green Bay have a great opportunity to knock out Detroit, because this is an NFC there's already a lot of difficult teams that you're gonna have to go through. There's Philadelphia, there's the Commanders. Which I think Commanders actually, I think they've fallen away from the rest of the pack. Philadelphia, Detroit, Green Bay. Those are three really, really good teams. The 49ers is a fourth team that can become really, really good if they can just get their crap together. You don't allow them to get their crap together, so that they don't even, so they're not even an option if you're a Green Bay or if you're Detroit. You're looking at it from that aspect. And the game is going to be at Lambeau. I don't know if the frigid temperatures is going to be that big of a factor. I don't know if it'll get that cold this early. It's still, in November. You never know. We just got done. I just got done earlier this show talking about a snow football game, a full-on snow football game in November. So you never know. It's a Mother Nature. Things can change. But I still think weathers will be a factor, because it is a cross-country trip for San Francisco, and they're a sunny outdoor football team going into the cold at Lambeau. But, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, Kyle Juszczyk, these boys have, they played in that big Lambeau, the big game at Lambeau Field, way back then in 2021 when the 49ers was able to reach that NFC Championship. So I don't think it's going to be too big of a moment. These 49ers players have this experience. And I think the fact that you're going up against an opposition that has some real quality to them, that has, because the 49ers haven't played the greatest opponents, even in their 5 losses. They lost to the Rams, who are not great, Arizona, who are decent, but they're not special or anything. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks. Even their wins the 49ers have, it hasn't been that great. I think the fact that you're going up against Green Bay, a team that can really, really test you, I think this has an opportunity to be a game that can almost shock the 49ers back into life and back into winning ways. And as a 49er fan, I hope it, because obviously I want to see us, back in the playoffs and back in the Super Bowl. But I don't know, that just seems so far-fetched right now. It's unbelievable. Thank you guys, though, for tuning into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.